Kelsey, my queen, I am so stinking excited to have you on the podcast and talk all the things about you, your life, your business, and this amazing book that I finally have my hands on. Okay, I'm getting too ahead of myself. I'm way too excited because literally before we started recording, I said, we just need to record so I don't say anything that's not on the podcast. So, girl, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so happy you've joined me for this episode today.
Thank you for having me. I know that's the thing is I like to have raw, real moments. So I'm like if you have feedback on the book or what it's done for you, let's record it so everybody can get the juice as I'm getting it as well. So
Yes.
I'm so excited to hang with you today. And I'm so just like thrilled and grateful we got connected. And it just was like, oh, soul sister. Oh yeah, we're making this happen today, right now.
1000%. Okay, so before we get into all the goods, because people are like, okay, who is this girl? Why is Mandy so excited to talk to her? You guys, listen, I deliver the goods and I deliver the good people. So Kelsey, introduce yourself and what it is that you do.
So I am a branding educator and a lifestyle branding photographer, speaker, author, and I call myself, I'm sure you'll say this in the intro, but like an unapologetic cheerleader for leaders in business. I just get so excited for people stepping into their purpose, which means stepping out of their comfort zone, seeing, the world and their place in their community in a whole new light. And so what I do is I help entrepreneurs and leaders define a connection-based brand. I take traditional branding and flip it 180 degrees and look at it from a completely new perspective in order to bring humanity back to business and really allow you to have a place to step out of feeling scattered, step into feeling confident. And then for the past 10 years, I've been a professional photographer and I specialize in lifestyle branding photography, where we illustrate that message and illustrate who you are. And then I also am the author of The Connection Method, which helps people define that connection-based brand so they can move forward with confidence and intention. Boo, yeah, that's me.
So good. So good. I love how you at the end were like, and I'm also the author. Like, it shouldn't be like the biggest flex that you have because not everybody is an author, for goodness sake. Okay.
Girl, it was not the plan. It just like, okay, we're an author now. Here we go.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about that for a second because it's so freaking cool. And I love the way it happened. So I have in my hand, I know you guys are listening to a podcast, so you can't see me right now. Or if you're seeing a video from somewhere, you're seeing me hold Kelsey's book in my hands, The Connection Method, which I cannot absorb fast enough. Holy cow, it's so good. Kelsey, tell everybody how this beautiful, amazing work of art came to be.
Oh my gosh. So this is actually, like you said, I love this story because it was just, I say this in the book of like my purpose heaved her booty onto my lap and was just like, this is what you're doing. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was a kid. Like business has always been in my blood. And so I had my photography business for a few years and I had been building it in a different way, which was, I didn't know at the time, but like based on really connecting with people and leading with who I was first versus my product, which was photography. And I just marketed myself in a different way. I branded myself in a different way. I didn't realize it was different at the time. And I was asked to speak at this women's networking event and talking about the way I did things. And this woman came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I like what you're saying. I'm starting a new business and I want to do it right from the start. Would you mind, helping me with that?" And I said, "Sure. Yeah, I'll write a little like 10-page workbook for you to go through." And I sat down at my computer and 300 pages later in 2 weeks, I had the first draft of The Connection Method. And I was like, wait a minute. So it's true. Like you write what you know.
Oh man. So I mean, it was like the most beautiful accident because now like you have so much goodness in this book. I'm flipping through. I'm trying to find the first couple of things that I was like, oh, because there's so many aha moments for me in this. It truly is so different than what people are teaching now. Yes, they're teaching about connection, but I feel like not like this. And you have a really great story in the beginning. And I almost don't want to give it away, but it was of you and your, is it Grandpa Paul? No.
Grandfather. Yeah, Grandpa Paul. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Grandpa Paul. And that you would go, can we share that little snippet in the beginning?
Of course. Okay, yeah. So that's how I really got started in business. I would play business. every day I had a new business. And my grandfather, who I call a serial entrepreneur, he was so successful in business. He saw that and said, all right, Kels, let's start your first business. So we started Kelsey's Jewelry, where we imported jewelry from Mexico, silver jewelry from Mexico, and we wholesaled it to boutiques around town. And one thing that he taught me is the first time we went out on our first quote unquote sales call, right, to sell this jewelry, he told me in the car, he said, Kelsey, we are going to leave the jewelry in the car. And I thought that was very odd because I'm like, we need to sell the jewelry. And instead,
that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. And so instead, we actually went into each boutique and we introduced ourselves. We met the boutique owner. We shared stories. We learned their story. No mention of the jewelry, and left. We would follow that pattern 2, 3, 4 times. And by the 4th or 5th, 6th time, we would then bring the jewelry into the store. And every single time the flat of jewelry would be sold out, because what my grandfather taught me was that it was not about the jewelry. It was about the relationship. It was about connecting. It was about the human to human interaction. And he's like, when you focus on the relationship, not the product, that's when you'll succeed. That's when you will really create the impact you want. And so that was the business education that I was taught at a very early age and subconsciously just integrated into my business as I grew up. And then little do we know, formed the foundation of my book, The Connection Method. So thank you, Grandpa Paul, for teaching me.
Thank you, Grandpa Paul. Like, can you guys I love this story because I'm imagining it in my brain. Little Kelsey, Grandpa Paul going into these jewelry shops and just striking up conversation with the owners and just chatting and shooting the wind, right? Shooting the breeze. And I would love for, like, in these first couple of meetings, he was just going into, did he ever say what he did? Did he ever say why you guys were there? Or did he was just like, I want to get to know you and your business?
No. And I think, it was truly just a, hey, nice to meet you. You know, and my grandpa Paul was notorious for telling these grandiose stories of his adventures. And so generally he would hear something that would trigger a story about, you know, a whale almost collapsing their sailboat in Hawaii or, you know, his time in the military. And then he would, you know, make some crazy jokes or things like that. He was so personable. And so, no, it was not an intentional never mention, like it was a dirty secret that we sold jewelry. It just, we didn't focus on that. We focused on what was important, which was connection and building those relationships and finding out who this human was on the other side of the counter versus what they could do for me. It was, hey, can we connect? And that's what's so important to remember, is that especially in these times, the day and age that we're living now, people are striving, seeking, needing connection.
Yes.
Like they want to know who's behind the brands they're buying into. They want to know the story. They want to know the values. You can't hide behind your logo. You can't hide behind this perfect, everything's perfect. You have to show some realness. You have to bring that humanity back to your business and brand. And that's what the connection method allows you to do.
Yeah.
And you had said earlier, you know, what's so different about it is, you know, there's so many books out there that inspire you, empower you, tell you, you know, to be vulnerable, all that, which is so important, but none of them tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
We are stuck in a state of feeling scattered and so many options and comparison monster knocking at the door, imposter syndrome knocking at the door. How do we actually do it? And that's what the connection method does, is it gives you a strategic flow to define who you are, what you value, what people can expect from you, this connection-based brand that will help you stand confidently in who you are and help you navigate through the comparison monster and everything. So,
oh, so good. So good. And you even had, like, you've even gone a step further, because it's one thing, and it's just like you said, it's one thing to share all of this knowledge and put it on the table, but it's another thing entirely to teach how to accomplish this. And a lot of times for people trying to figure out their branding and their niche, which you've executed so beautifully in the beginning portions of laying down the branding foundation, which you call it,
Mm-hmm.
it's so much more than like the pretty fonts and the colors and your website design. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's all great. But
Yes.
branding, as you have it quoted from Jeff Bezos in the beginning, is branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room, is how
Mm-hmm.
you make people feel when they're no longer around you. And knowing that about yourself takes a little bit of work, but you've covered that. Of course you have. You have these amazing prompts in your book too of questions and things that you're inspired by and things that you love, things that you don't like. You even
Yes.
point that out too, of making sure that you are very specific about the things that you don't align with, the clients that you won't work with. Can you talk a little bit about why that's important to not just highlight the things that you love or the people that inspire you or the ideal client that you want and the ideal community that you want? I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
using
Yes.
all these buzzwords from your
Yes.
book. So
Yes.
hopefully
Ideal
everybody that's
community.
listening is like, yes, ideal
What are you talking
community.
about? Yes.
Talk about why it's important to also pick out the things that you don't like and that you don't align with and why you need to identify those things.
Yes. Excellent question. That's the thing, is that our life is not perfect, and there are two sides to the coin every single day. And a lot of times when we get that insecurity, it comes up when something isn't vibing with us. And if we're just staying in the emotional or just trying to maintain a relationship with a client or relationship with a person in your life, but it's not aligning with your values, it's not aligning with your energy, but you don't know what to do with those vibes, right? You're just going to be continually in this cycle, staying with people you shouldn't be staying with. And so making sure that you define what I call your attract list, characteristics of who you want in your community, as well as your repel list of people and characteristics that you don't want. So when they do show up, those repel listers, oh, you know what? And not an emotional state, in an actual tactical, practical state of, they probably aren't a good fit for me. I'm probably not the best person to serve them. And I remember last year I had to fire a client. Just everything that was going on in our relationship was directly reflected on my repel list. And so I was able to use that repel list of define characteristics that deplete me, that make me feel less than, that make me feel not appreciated. I was able to go to that list and list out a few things that say, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm the best person to serve you. And it wasn't this, oh, well, I'm sorry, or I'm mad at you or anything. It was just a business to business conversation saying, I want you to succeed. And I'm probably not the best person, since we're not jiving on these things. It's an incredibly powerful thing when you take the emotional and turn it into something tangible. It's powerful.
Yeah. Ooh, so good. Oh my God. See, stuff like this is, I know she and I are just like geeking out right now. It's so great. We're just like, ew, this is so good. Because it's so true. And it is so powerful to be able to be so confident in what you have to offer and the person that it's for, that when somebody comes along, and it doesn't have to be, you talk about the attract and the repel list. Maybe they have just one or two qualities on there and they're maybe not all that bad, but you're still not willing to cross that boundary you've set for yourself. It's still so important that you protect your own business boundaries, but your own mental boundaries too, because you've probably put those things on your repel list because it will trigger something not so positive in your mental, your spiritual, your physical. I mean, our mental can very much directly affect our physical, and we need to be super sensitive and protective over that in our businesses, because sometimes we are the person wearing all the hats, that we're the one that also plays, the marketer, the content creator, and the customer service HR person that we take all the complaints to.
Yes, that's the thing, is like, especially us as business owners and leaders, we have to protect every aspect of ourselves, and we need to make sure that we are bringing in people in our life, in our ideal community, not just our ideal client, but our team, our leadership, our friends and family, making sure that they are from our attract list. And I mean, honestly, we don't live in a perfect world where, clients, team members, family members, they're not going to be 100% attract listers, because hello, we are human. However, when you have that repel list, you can really gauge the non-negotiables of what you're willing to work with and not. And so like my 3 non-negotiables working with me are: you have good energy, you're positive, you respect my time, and you're willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to work my booty off for you, and I expect the same in return. And Mandy, you know what I do is that when I have my client calls, like an initiation, initial consult calls, I tell them those 3 things. I say, you know what, I would love to work with you, and here's what you can expect from me, but here's also what I expect from you in return. And it really equalizes the expectations for both sides.
Yeah.
And I know that I've lost a few, I should say, quote unquote, lost a few clients, but that's a lot for some people. If they're just wanting to take the easy route, I'm not the person to work with. Like, I am there to challenge you. I'm there to work my booty off for you. And I want you to step out and be successful with the tools that I'm giving you with branding education, defining your connection-based brand, and your branding photography. And if you're not willing to do the same in return, then it's kind of a waste of both of our time. And respecting my time is one of my non-negotiables. And so I found that I have gotten top tier people who are at the starting line just itching to go, go, go when I set those clear boundaries. It is so powerful. And then, on the repel list, if they're not jiving with those non-negotiables, you can't serve them the best. They're not your people. And that's okay. There's someone else's people. There's enough to go around.
Peace and amen, right? That's so good.
Can I get an amen?
Can I get an amen? Yes, sister. Okay. So dang good. So all of that, I cannot agree with you more. I want to jump into a chapter that you actually recommended to me, and I'm so excited to talk about because this is my jam. I love this. It's called The Gap, and I think you reference it as the Sasquatch Factor. Your names, like it's almost like you've created people out of the comparison monster, the Sasquatch Factor, or the Sasquatch. The imposter syndrome. Factor. People are, everyone's very familiar with that. But I would love to dive into what the gap is. And you have a beautiful reference to who I didn't know her first name was Robin, first of all, but Robin Rihanna. And you have this opening quote of what makes you different or weird, that's your strength, from Meryl Streep. And I think I've always known that, and I think other people listening to this episode too are thinking, well, yeah, I know what makes me different is my strength, but how the heck do I use it? And hot dang, do you answer that more in a bag of chips is giving the example of Rihanna filling the gap of in the beauty industry being the oversaturated market that it is. Like any celebrity that comes out with a beauty line, I'm pretty sure there's a collective eye roll and a little bit of a sigh, like, oh my gosh, another beauty line. But you are so on the money when Rihanna, I probably said her name, Rihanna, come out with her Fenty Beauty. People are like, okay, what's going to be different about this? Oh my goodness, did she stun people? Give us a little bit more too, because you have some really great stats in here too about her progression with her beauty company.
Yeah. So I'm so glad you asked me this because this chapter 7 is my favorite, and everybody says the gap is their favorite chapter because the gap is what makes you different. When you look at a giant lineup of everybody in your industry, there is a gap in the line with your name on it. It has been waiting for you to fill it. And it's what makes you different. And the biggest feedback I get from people is, hey, Kelsey, I know I'm different, but it's really hard to define what makes me different because I'm just going along my merry way. My story's my story. What's so special about me? And so the gap chapter actually helps you define what makes you different and validates those silly things that you don't think are anything special, to say, yeah, they are. And those are going to be those connection pieces. And I call those little pieces the Sasquatch factor because I'm 6 feet tall. I have always been big. I've always had a big personality. I've always been different. I was bullied in school. I didn't have my first real friend until I was in my 20s. and now like actually having really, really close friends, early 30s, it's taken me a lot of time to own who I am and not be apologetic for it. And I've always felt like a Sasquatch, and I'm from Seattle. And so the legend of Sasquatch is very rampant here. But I've always felt like a mythical creature that's just wandering the forest with like, I'm weird, I'm different, like nobody gets me type deal. But the thing is that everybody has their own Sasquatch factor. Everybody has that thing where we're like, I'm weird, I'm different, like nobody's going to identify with this. But that's the ticket, is when you can define what makes you different, own what makes you different, even if it's the stupidest, smallest, simplest thing. That's when people can genuinely connect. That's when people can say, oh, me too. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel like I matter because, you know, Kelsey went through this, Mandy went through this. And those are the three basic needs every single human being has. I want to feel seen. I want to feel heard, and I want to feel like I matter. And when you can define your gap, this, what makes you different, those little Sasquatch factors, and when you can define it and own it and share it, that's when connection and impact will happen, and eventually growth in your business.
I cannot wait till you have an audible version of this book. Just hearing you say it out loud is so powerful and so good. It almost feels like your big sister is just here. Girl, I got you. Let me just take you on this journey. It's going to be so good. But I highly also recommend getting the book too, because again, you're coming out with prompts and examples, like gap examples. I think it's so good because sometimes we think like, I don't know necessarily what makes me different. And some of your examples is, where did you grow up? Is your hometown a big old city, or is it a suburb? Did you grow up on a farm? My husband grew up on a dairy farm. Not many people can say that. I mean, that's very Wisconsin of him, like growing up on a dairy farm. Are you married? Are you single? Do you have a different, like all of these things aren't necessarily, I think we think of weird as like unusual or weird. We think of it as like, that's a weird quality, when maybe you're a singer, or maybe you're really great at copy, or maybe you grew up on a dairy farm. Those things aren't necessarily weird, but they are very unique circumstances and talents and story points that people glaze over so quickly because they're like, what's special about that? Okay, well, I didn't grow up on a dairy farm. I don't know what that's like. The stories my husband shares, I'm like, you did not do that. That didn't actually, that's not real life. That didn't happen. It totally did, but it captivates me. And there's a million other farmers out there that are like, yep, we do the same thing on our farm.
And the thing is that even if you didn't grow up on a farm, but maybe you really like that lifestyle, or you wish you had that lifestyle, or maybe you had chickens growing up, it still is a connection piece. It doesn't have to be an A for A match storyline, but people have desires and dreams and connections that we don't even know about. And so it's really a disservice to them if we don't share these things about ourselves. And that's why I put a lot of examples in the book, just to trigger the thinking about who you are and your story, and validating like these small things that seem so insignificant are actually your power. And I also, because I've worked with so many entrepreneurs going through this process, I have a lot of ways to power through overthinking the questions too, of, oh, you know, what about this? What about this? Like, I really try to walk you through the process and meet all of those what ifs, overthinking, because we all do it.
Oh my gosh, you've literally thought of everything, haven't you? Everything.
Well, that's what happens when you work with real people who are in the trenches, working in business, working as a leader. Like, there's no BS. There's no room for BS. And what's so interesting is that we are not that different from each other. We all have the same fears. We all have the same insecurities. We all have the same overthinking. And so what I did was just simplified it so we could see that it's not just us. And we can work our way through it.
Oh, so good. Okay, so what's next? What is now next in Kelsey land? Because I'm pretty sure everybody's going to absorb this book like a sponge, exactly like I have. I mean, I haven't gotten all the way through it in the last 36 hours that I've had it, but I've gotten pretty stinking far because
Yeah,
I'm
you've
just
gotten
like
far.
absorb. I took this to the gym this morning because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't stop, won't stop, because it's just so in depth and it's so personable. So this really is such a beautiful reflection of really your mission. So I'm pretty sure everybody's wondering, just like I am, what's next?
Yes. So, I mean, the first step was the connection method book, because that lays the foundation for everything I do, you do, moving forward with intention and impact. And so, yes, grab the grab the connection method on Amazon. And then I have a few projects in the work that I can't talk about yet, but there will be more education, more hands-on education, more accessibility. Now that COVID is starting to open the world up more, I'm going to be, speaking more at events. But for the most part, I'm hanging out on Instagram, where you can find out all of the next things that I'm up to. But there are a few things cooking in the kitchen, that's for sure. And
yes.
I'm already planning book number 2, because everyone's like, I need the next. And I have a few ideas are swirling around in the brain for book 2.
Yes.
But again, like the first thing was the connection method. We have to all get on the same page and then move forward. So we got some things cooking.
Yes, so good. Okay, I have to just ask too, because did you ever think that you would write a book?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, great. So now that
No.
You can kind of look back in hindsight, knowing like, I never thought I would write a book. I don't know that I ever had a desire to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And you think back before this even happened, could you have even in your wildest dreams imagined where your business and where your life now is headed well before this book?
Yes, because when I was 13, this is a personal little quote, not or quip about myself, but when I was 13, I'm a very visual person, and I had this vision of myself in my 30s on a stage speaking in a white dress. And I've had that visual in my brain since I was 13. I didn't know what I was speaking about. I didn't know where I was speaking. I didn't know who I was speaking to, but I knew that I had a greater purpose, and I knew that it had to do with sharing my voice and my heart. And so it's been really, really exciting to see how just opening myself up to opportunities and connecting with people and letting them come into my world, letting me go into their world, and really living out the connection method in real life has afforded me these opportunities for growth. And now I'm looking back and I'm talking to my 13-year-old self and being like, girl, we're almost there. Like we're almost there. And the connection method and everything grandpa taught us was that door opener. And I didn't know it at the time, but I just kept going with my intuition. I just kept letting that visual direct me, even though I didn't know the path. But I'm not surprised by this, because I knew this is where we were headed. And I knew that I am a force to be reckoned with, and
I love that.
get it done, girl. So I'm not surprised by that, but I am extremely grateful for this journey, and extremely grateful for everybody in my life and the people I've been able to connect with. It's just put me on an amazing journey, and you'll learn more about my story and the journey that got me here. But it's just the beginning. And so short answer, no, I'm not surprised. Long answer, you just heard it, but I'm excited and extremely grateful.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. That's so great. Always known there was a bigger purpose, just didn't really know what it was, but you were trusting in the process. That's so good. I know there's so many people that need to hear that. And I love
trust your intuition.
Yes, trust it. Absolutely. Okay, so people are dying to know where they can connect with you. So share all the goods and where they can be the first to know about all these things that are cooking in the kitchen.
Yes. So definitely head over to Amazon, pick up the connection method. And then my second home is Instagram, where that's where I build my relationships. That's where we just have our morning talks. That's where I share all the things and the upcoming projects. You can also visit my website, kelseykurtis.com. On Instagram, I'm Kelsey M. Kurtis, and that's Kurtis with a K. I'm the only KK Kelsey Kurtis, I think.
I love it.
But that's going to be the best place. And you can sign up for my newsletter on my website. And I'm just super excited to have connected with you and your community. Like, it's happening, girl.
Yes.
It's happening. I love it.
So good. So good. Thank you so much for joining for this episode. I got so much out of it. I love your book. I know that all the viewers and listeners are going to love it too. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been such a pleasure.
My friend.